Hey everyone and welcome back to this Legion in short. Today we're going to talk about a siege ram. With its 320 million cost, it actually counts already towards the most expensive mercenaries available. But what are its specialties? First of all, a siege ram is a tank unit, which means it's going to spawn in front of the wave, same as a Kraken, a Ghost Knight, Dino, etc. Apart from that, it is pierced and fortified armor, and especially the fortified armor matters a lot when it comes to tanks, because you want to create this big meat shield that is gonna soak a lot of damage from the fighters. Apart from the armor type, it does have an ability, which is the deflection. Reduces damage taken from ranged units by 15%. This already shows us that the siege ram, apart from Ghost Knight being a counter for spells, or being a counter for auto attacks, not for spells, the siege ram is a counter for ranged units. But when do we actually use a siege ram? Same as other tanks, we want to create this meat shield, I just said it. Which means you either have a strong wave that is weak against the attack type of the fighters your opponent has, and you want to send a tank to create a lot of time the wave can hit the fighters without taking damage, or you want to send a tank on a ranged wave. A little bit the same principle, you just want to keep the distance between wave and fighters as long as possible, and especially units that have some sort of AoE or partially AoE, such as pyros, flowers, aquas, they might be pulled away from the wave and can't spread all their damage, which will reduce their effectiveness. Let's show some examples. So, I prepared some examples for you that might be good targets to send the siege ram against. First of all, we have a Kingpin, right? Kingpin now here is the representation of a pierce unit that deals reduced damage against the fortified armor of the siege ram. The Kingpin is just one example. Often you might want to send other things against the Kingpin specifically, but to counter pierce melee damage, a siege ram is obviously the best choice to go for, since it's the only fortified tank besides snails. Next on, we have the Haven. And the Haven is a little bit the same, right? First of all, you have a pierce damage unit, so you want to have it soak all the damage. And second of all, it's partially AoE, as I just explained. So sometimes if your opponent has a Haven, for example, you might just want to send a ram on 11, and you keep the wave away from this Haven, because it will not be able to kill that ram very fast. Next on, we have some obvious examples, right? We have the Trinity Archer and the Daphne. Both represent ranged units that will deal reduced damage, 15% reduced damage to the ram, and often you just want to counter those ranged units with a siege ram. Alright, I think these are a few of the obvious examples, but I have two secret examples for you that you might not have noticed so far, and that you will now be able to counter with a siege ram. The first one are Orchids or Infiltrators. You all know them, right? And they have this ability where you can pay gold for extra shurikens that give you some sort of burst magic damage. They will throw those shurikens out and deal a lot of damage to whatever comes first into their range. But you might now ask, okay, can I counter it with a Kraken? And the obvious answer is yes, you will be able to counter those magic damage with a Kraken, which is still the best option. But in case you do not have either the Mythium to send a Kraken, or there's a lot of other ranged units on top, you might really want to send a ram against those Orchids. Not against the base attack of the Orchids, but against the Shurikens, because since Orchids are gaining extra range when buying Shurikens, they also gain extra reduction on the ram, which means all the shurikens they're throwing will be reduced by 15% as any other ranged damage source. And this way, if you have Orchids and have some other ranged units in the backline, let's say archers or whatever, they will get reduced by 15% as well, sending a siege ram. You'll probably not see it, but I'll just show you real quick. So now we have a siege ram, and all those shurikens they're still coming out, they're all reduced by 15%, which is quite a lot if it fits to your build or if it fits to the general send you are going to get out. The probably most genius trick I will show you now, and I hope you will be super hyped about this because it's so smart, is the following. It's not about the Gatling gun, it's the spell that is on the Gatling gun, which is Glacial Touch. To give you an insight on why this is, Glacial Touch will give you a slow by 90% on the target. Which means if you send a ram, for example, as a tank, the ram will be standing very still or just moving 10% of the movement speed, and all the wave is gonna get in front. On top of this, the idea behind Glacial Touch is to mark one target with this debuff, and then as it dies it deals a little bit of AoE damage around it. But if you have this one target in certain combos where you have a ranged unit at the very top, like the gun, the ram will be slowed, pulled to the very back of the wave, I will show you in a second by an example, and as it is at the very back of the wave and the marked target is there, it will not get attacked by any other unit, and the bonus effect of getting this AoE splash in Glacial Touch is basically denied. I will show you real quick. Let's say this works for all like very ranged units, and now we see the whole wave is walking in front, so any other unit that would now come from the bottom would only hit those targets, and the ram is still not there. So all the debuff you have for this ram, where as it dies it deals an insane amount or a decent amount of AoE damage, is totally denied because all your other fighters besides the one ranged unit will target the others. And this is the best way to counter Glacial Touch on certain builds where you have it in a ranged unit at the very front. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you liked those two tricks in the end, and I hope you will send some rams if you can.